The first story is titled What Comes Next. It's a strange and unexplained story I found on a page dedicated to creepy real-life stories. This is about a guy named Michael who grew up in the digital age. He loves smartphones and would always go for digital over real-life social interactions. However, there was one night out of the week he would never miss, which was horror movie night with his buddies. His Friday night ritual was to watch the latest horror flick with his friends, then go home and just prepare for bed. On one of those nights, one of Michael's friends brought an old dusty VHS tape to watch. This was apparently found in the attic of a passed on family member's house in Vancouver. As his friend Jackson walked in with the tape, they were all really excited to give it a go. The host spent about 30 minutes looking for his old VHS player, and when they found it, they immediately took the tape, shoved it in, and began to watch. Right after the film started, there was nothing but silence in the room, so everyone, was seated tightly in their chair and was giving it their full attention. The film was actually about a demon that possessed its victims by presenting itself as a friend calling herself Lila. About halfway through the film became more and more sinister as Lila would establish a bond with her victims before she made her move. It almost seemed as though Lila cared about them before she destroyed their lives. Once fooled, she was able to possess them. You could see it in her dreadful eyes, long teeth, long nails, and shrunken face. The style in which the film was shot also made the group very uneasy, as it was mostly presented in the point of view of the victims and even the demon, making it unbelievably realistic. They began to feel breathless and helpless when the film ended, with Lila playing hopscotch with a group of friends that she met in a park. After everyone had finished watching the film, Michael, along with everyone else, was feeling physically exhausted from the film and just needed some fresh air. He didn't like what he had seen and wanted to basically just forget about it. I mean, I don't blame him, honestly. They then decided to watch a comedy to let some time pass, and after a short while, Michael was feeling good again and had basically forgotten about the film. The group then went to get some fast food and then went their separate ways. Now, later that night, Michael decided to de-stress and relax by playing some online slots before bed. He actually found that this was a great way to kind of unwind and just have a little bit of fun. It was late and he decided to get ready to shut off and prepare for sleep, but right before he shut off, he got a message from a girl called Lila. She invited him to check out this new online slot. Now, Michael was tired, and without even realizing who the message was actually sent from, he just opened the link and out of instinct and not knowing what was going to happen next. He did fall asleep, but then was actually woken up in like a puddle of sweat, completely drenched, to what he thought was just, a bad dream, like a nightmare where he was being watched by something that he couldn't quite explain. Now, over the next few days, Michael would begin to feel sick and even tell his friends that he wasn't feeling good and wouldn't make it to their next movie night, which he never missed. But here's the problem. Michael disappeared. He not only didn't make it to the next movie night, he didn't even make it out, period. His friends stopped hearing from him. He virtually just vanished. And although some time has passed, and most people assumed, that he just wanted to go live off the grid and disappear and, close everyone out, his close group of friends actually think otherwise, and they are convinced it has something to do with that VHS tape that they probably shouldn't have watched in the first place. Creepy. This next story comes from a Vespertine on Reddit. This person claims they inherited a collection of paranormal VHS tapes from their uncle, and they took them actually to a shop to try and sell them off. This person explains that throughout the 80s and 90s, his uncle recorded various tapes on his Retrovision TV and picked up some pretty spooky stuff. He explained that with his last breath, he told him to unhook the VCR and hide it with the tape collection, and so he did. But not even a day later, the Retrovision was gone, but the tapes were left untouched. He said, "I don't know who took it or how they knew about my uncle's passing so quickly, but I can only assume they didn't know about the tapes. I was terrified that they'd find out about the modifications and come back for the tapes, but they never did, and they've been in my possession ever since." Now, he continued to say, "My uncle told me to never watch the tapes alone, and I was too scared to ever tell anyone else about them, so I've never watched them. I don't know what's on them, but I know the kind of things you can see on a Retrovision, so I figured they might be worth something to the right buyer." Now, this shop owner looked at his collection of tapes and actually read them out. One was titled "And We All Fall Down," another titled "Crying Girl in the Woods," another was labeled as "It's Already Too Late," and one with the title "Pity Us." Now the shop owner asked, if your uncle's been gone for about 20 years or so, why are you only selling them now? He responded by saying, well, I was pretty much still a kid when he passed, and by the time I was old enough to start looking into my uncle's occult connections, I had largely forgotten about the tapes. I just recently started poking around on HeroickHollows.net to see if I could find anything that might have had anything to do with my uncle, and that's how I found out about this place, which is the shop he was at. Now the shop owner said, listen kid, before I make you an offer, I'm going to have to check at least a few of these to make sure they're legit, you know, nodding to the 13-inch TV and VCR combo that he already had waiting on his desk. Now he hesitated for a moment. He knew before, you know, he came in that he would need to watch the videos, and he had been looking forward to finally actually seeing what was on the tapes himself. But after so many years of avoiding the tapes, he was perhaps understandably, you know, wary of like what would happen when he finally unlocked their secrets. He said, you think it's safe? If so, then go ahead. After a few seconds of static, a grainy and kind of desaturated image of a man in a chair, you know, he appeared on screen, this man. He was sitting in a chair. The chair was cast from like rusted steel, and while the room he was sitting in there was pretty concrete as far as they could see, the man was completely bald with a drawn and haggard face. His eyes were kind of a jaundiced yellow, and his skin was brown like aged paper and hung very loosely off of his face, as if he had recently lost like an enormous amount of weight. Now his clothes were ragged and woven from, you know, some coarse and kind of faded fabric, and he wondered if he was like a political prisoner of some kind. He held his gaze on the camera for a few seconds, looked down at a scrap piece of paper in his hands, and then cleared his throat and said, it wasn't our fault. They demanded sacrifice. They demanded obedience. We could not resist. All of our strength of mind and will and of our flesh was sacrificed in their name, and we had become too weak to resist. This whole speech went on for like several minutes with him talking about, you know, sacrifices and just a lot of other cryptic things. The boy and the shop owner heard some sort of signal playing over the man's speech, and they said it was very unsettling, and it was kind of like Morse code. Now the shop owner started to desperately press stop, pause, and eject on the VCR, you know, trying to get the tape out. When the tape continued to play, he then knocked the TV to the ground. He then grabbed his cane and actually swung it at the TV to smash it. The shop owner screamed in frustration, you know, falling to his knees, and basically said that, you know, this was like a psychotronic signal that they heard, and once it was deep enough into their brains, it would pull them into a different reality. How he knew all this, I don't know, but you know, they said they started hearing loud noises, and he forced himself to look up, and when he did, he said he saw like the silhouette of a demon among them that was slowly stretching its arm out to him. He said right before this demon kind of like touched him that the shop owner hit it with his cane again, and suddenly everything just disappeared. The shop owner said these tapes have the power to like summon demons and bring them into other realities, which is why his uncle probably never wanted him to show these to anyone or be seen by anybody. The shop owner said, you know, had he watched these alone, he actually could have been sucked into another world with absolutely no way out. Now, whether this story is true or not, it definitely is really creepy. And I know personally I got some old VHS tapes sitting in my closet, but I'm definitely not going to be finding my VCR to put them in anytime soon. Starting with the battered VHS tape, this story comes from a person on Reddit who claims that the story is true. It starts by them saying that one time in the mid to late 90s, they had a famous relative who would get a lot of fan mail, most of which was just photographs of their dogs, friendship pendants, etc. Not super weird stuff, but some a little creepy and almost stalkerish. Like they said one day, a padded envelope arrived, and in it was a battered home movie tape with a handwritten label on it. Now they said they never heard of the title, but considered themselves to be a movie buff, so thought that they would just give it a go. They said a few days later they were alone in the house for the night, and they thought, you know, what better time to watch this movie? So they locked the doors, got a blanket, made some popcorn, even their stuffed teddy, and pressed play. They said what followed was one of the most terrifying and traumatic experiences of their life. The film was fuzzy and filmed on handheld cameras like a home movie. They said it ran for about 2 hours and they were scared out of their mind the entire time. So the person on Reddit went on to say that this movie ended up being the Blair Witch Project. But the creepy thing is that Blair Witch wouldn't actually come out in theaters for another 3 to 4 months. So this to him was very much real and scary, and people in the comments assume that whoever sent him this tape had to have, been a friend or a family member who worked in the film industry to have their hands on it. Now, the writer on Reddit said to them, this was as real as it could get. They didn't watch it in theaters, around people. They watched it in the dark by themselves in their home, months before Blair Witch became, well, Blair Witch. I mean, arguably, Blair Witch is the flagship for found footage, and love it or hate it, it still terrifies people to this day. I know it scared me, and when I watched it as a kid in theaters, so I could imagine how scared he was. Number 2 is the white tapes of Japan. Now, in Japan, a series of VHS tapes known as the white tapes, or known as the Shiroi VTR, were said to be cursed, bringing misfortune and terror to those who watched them. The tapes, which were reportedly created by a mysterious individual or group, contained strange and disturbing footage, including images of ghosts, demons, and other supernatural entities. Now, one viewer who reported watching one of the white tapes claimed to have experienced a series of terrifying and unexplained events, including strange noises, movements, and even physical attacks by an unseen force. The white tapes, apparently originated in Japan in the 1980s and are believed to have actually derived from a city there named Osaka. The tapes are said to contain extremely strange and disturbing images like close-up of eyes, mouths, teeth, and other body parts that are often, distorted or manipulated in some way or the other. Mysterious symbols, codes, and writings will usually appear on screen, often in conjunction with the unsettling images. Now, fragments of stories or scenes that seem to honestly make no sense at all often feature people of characters in severe distress, and according to legend, anyone who watches the white tapes will be cursed with a series of terrifying and unexplained events such as nightmares and visions. A lot of viewers have reported experiencing very vivid and disturbing dreams. Some people believe, the white tapes are a form of psychological warfare or a hoax designed to just manipulate and frighten those who watch. Some have even thought that they might be a portal to another dimension. Number 3, the ghost tape of the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel in Colorado is said to be haunted by the ghost of its former owner, F.O. Stanley. Now, in the 1980s, a VHS tape was discovered in the hotel's basement, which was said to contain footage of the hotel's ghostly apparitions. Now, however, viewers who watched the tape reported experiencing very strange phenomena, including unexplained noises, movements, and even some physical harm. One viewer who reported watching the tape claimed to have experienced a series of just terrifying and unexplained events, strange noises happening, movements suddenly around them, and even physical attacks by an unseen force. Now, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park in Colorado is renowned as one of the most haunted hotels in the entire United States. The hotel has become a well-known location for paranormal activity, with guests and employees alike reporting strange occurrences. The hotel gained further notoriety after Stephen King and his wife stayed in room 217 in 1974, which actually inspired the novel and movie The Shining, solidifying its reputation as a haunted place. This room is said to be haunted by the spirit of Mrs. Elizabeth Wilson, the head housekeeper who actually passed in an explosion during a snowstorm. Guests have reported lights turning on and off, objects moving on their own, and even cold spots. And many suggest that a portal, hovering over the grand staircase is the cause of numerous hauntings. Guests report hearing, children's laughter on the 4th floor with no one actually present there. Flora Stanley, the hotel owner's wife, is rumored to play the piano in the concert hall. Now, the Stanley Hotel has been investigated by numerous paranormal teams, including those, from Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures and Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, so check that out. Number 4, the cursed tape of the Dybbuk Box. Now, in 2004, a VHS tape was discovered in a mysterious box known as the Dybbuk Box, which was said to be cursed by a malevolent spirit. Now, the tape, which contained strange and very disturbing footage, was reportedly created by a mysterious individual and was said to bring misfortune and terror to anyone who watched it. So one viewer who reported watching the tape claimed to have experienced a series of terrifying and just unexplained events. Again, a lot of strange noises in the house, movements around them, and sometimes, yes, physical attacks on them as well. Now, this whole thing actually started back in 2003 though, a year earlier, when a man named Jason Haxton won an online auction for the box and received it. I think it was on eBay. He said the day it arrived, I put my hands on it and it almost feels like the thing collapses into a liquid state. I feel like a is coming into my gut. I'm paralyzed in pain. When I go to bed, I have terrible dreams of a hag that seems to come with the box. Haxton said he first heard about the box from a colleague whose roommate had listed it for sale after bizarre experiences, including hair loss and smelling bad odors that he associated with a Dybbuk. Now, the box owner put it on eBay, and according to the listing, the person selling the piece had purchased it in September of 2001 at an Oregon estate sale of a war survivor who passed away at 103 years old. The listing stated the woman got the wine cabinet while living in Spain, and it was among the few things she brought with her when she immigrated to America after the war. Haxton only paid $280 for the box, which, instead of wine, contained a goblet, 2 locks of hair tied with string, pennies from the 1920s, a dried rosebud, a cast iron candlestick holder, and a granite statue engraved with gilded Hebrew letters. Haxton said, he didn't believe the stories associated with the box since he was too science-based, but he then of course began experiencing what he has called just a tidal wave of bad luck. And last but not least, number 5, the haunted tape of the Bell Witch. It's a legend centered around the 19th century Bell family of Robertson County, Tennessee, who were allegedly haunted by an entity known as the Bell Witch, which caused various frightening phenomena for years. The tape and cave are actually part of the Bell Witch Cave, which is a real place near the Bell family homestead where locals report, being attacked and where potential human remains and bones have been found. Now, starting in 1817, the family and the surrounding area experienced a very long series of strange and frightening occurrences, physical manifestations, people speaking, apparently shape-shifting, all supposedly caused by an entity referred to as the Bell Witch. Now, a cave located near the original Bell homestead, which is known as Bell Witch Cave, is now associated with the legend as well. Now, some accounts suggest visitors to the cave report experiencing paranormal activity, strange noises, all that fun stuff. Now, John Bell Sr., the head of the family, is said to have mysteriously passed away after being haunted by the Bell Witch for several years, with some accounts suggesting poisoning as the cause of his death, but who knows? Now, the story of the Bell Witch legend has inspired various forms of media, including films, documentaries, and even podcasts. There's a few movies you can watch, one from 2004 called The Bell Witch Haunting, which is a found footage horror film, and one from 2013 owning the same name. So check those out if you're interested.
Number 5, I want a toy. Coming up first on our list today is going to be this creepy VHS tape uploaded to YouTube, I Want a Toy.mp4. It's been circulating around the net for a bit, and maybe you've actually seen it before if you've got your nose to the grindstone vis-a-vis scary videos like yours truly. This video was uploaded to a channel called Baddington and is said to have been discovered on a lost VHS tape and has left people with a real uneasy feeling in their stomach afterwards, and not just from watching all that static. The video itself, it's only about 5 minutes long, but those 5 minutes are more than enough to make your skin crawl and your hair stand on end. I'm burpy. The footage is grainy and distorted, making it difficult to discern what exactly it is you're even watching. It feels like a staticky nightmare, like something you kind of remember but can't quite focus on. It's like a recording of a TV show you've never heard of or seen before, aimed at what looks like preschoolers or kindergartners. There's a puppet that looks like he's probably pretty good friends with Annabelle and the puppet from Saw, and he's sitting singing his lovely, horrifying rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for You. Horrifying puppets and slowed down scary nursery rhymes. Is there a better combination in scary videos? If that wasn't enough for you though, things get a lot worse when our scary puppet friend seems to start degrading as the quality of the video degrades. His eyes vanish and the camera cuts to our little wooden pal saying how badly he wants a toy. He's been a good boy. I don't know. I gotta be honest, Haunted Puppet, I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee nothing. It might be best to keep a bit of distance between us, you and I. Now, if you enjoyed this kind of stuff, and I definitely do, that's why I made a list of it, I definitely recommend you toss Baddington a subscribe. They're a very good content creator. If you like content like this, there is a lot of haunted VHS stuff on that channel. But if you're looking for more than haunted VHS stuff, analog or digital, Top 5 Scary has it all. From stories of hauntings, Halloween movies, cryptids, conspiracies, true crime, and more, we've got a little something to scare everybody. So hit subscribe and that bell and don't miss a single scream. But take it slow, okay? Make sure you watch the rest of this video. Number 4, grave robbing for morons. Do you wish you had a few extra bucks? A little side hustle to help you make a few dollars in between checks in these trying times? I know I do. Maybe you just need a hobby that can also make you a little money on the side, a little passive income. Maybe something fun like selling old clothes on Depop, or I don't know, something outdoorsy like grave robbing. Luckily, there's an instructional video you have just got to see. That's our next entry, grave robbing for morons. The video itself is a how-to guide for individuals interested in grave robbing. It provides step-by-step instructions on how to locate and dig up graves, as well as helpful little tips for avoiding detection by the authorities. Now, the video does kind of seem like it might be a joke. It's presented kind of humorous, you know, there's some funny graphics and sarcastic commentary. People for a long time have wondered if the video is real, if this guy's really confessing to a criminal act, or if he's just doing a joke in poor taste. Grave robbing is definitely pretty illegal, but it's also one of those things that's considered like, I don't know, highly immoral, blasphemous, if that's your sort of thing. It's fine to grave rob if you're in like a video game and you're taking Viking gold out of an old crypt, but it's a little bit different when you're cracking open coffins in real life, I would say. Now, some people argue that the video it's just a work of satire, it's just a joke, and you shouldn't put too much stock into a weird video uploaded to YouTube, and that the video might just be a commentary on the whole absurdity of grave robbing as a whole, and this is to discourage people from engaging in the practice. Regardless of whether or not you think it's real or not, it's definitely got a lot of us talking, so it's definitely a videotape that maybe none of us should have watched. Some people believe it should be banned, while others believe it should be protected. That's all I gotta say about that. Number 3, the Paris catacombs. The Paris catacombs really don't need any help being scary. It's a tunnel filled with the remains of hundreds of dead bodies and more bones hanging up than a museum, so even a well-lit guided tour with a stop for some coffee and fancy snacks would probably still leave you a little bit unnerved and scared with just a dash of heebies and jeebies. Oh, if only a nice walk through the catacombs was what I was showing you. Instead, I've got a terrifying video of someone running around the catacombs like they're a first-person horror game. Now, why is someone running through the catacombs? Are they running from something that's behind them? Running in the world's worst marathon? Are they just scared because they're lost and they're desperately trying to find their way to the exit? The camera gets a lot shakier as the video keeps going, and the person seems like they're running faster and faster and getting more and more stressed and scared as they try to find their way out of the never-ending, wet, dark, dank annals of the tunnels below. At the end of the video, the camera drops and footsteps are all you can hear. So we have no idea what happened to our first-person view recording. Now, someone in the comments pointed out that something to keep in mind is that even just on the map presented of the catacombs, you can go from one side of the catacombs all the way to the other. Now, a lot of the public tour is blocked off, but there are spots where you can leave the path and wander into the depths of the catacombs, and they do not advise you to do this. In fact, they would rather prefer that you do not. You can get yourself really lost. Parisian police seal every entrance they find that isn't supposed to be on the tour, which means potentially you could go into one entrance, come back and find yourself in a sealed entrance, and you can do this for miles and miles. Explorers who are familiar with the catacombs say that the depths aren't even slightly mapped out. So there are miles and miles of just unknown catacomb out there. There are ways down no one knows and paths that could lead who knows where. Just hope you're not claustrophobic. Claustrophobic. Number 2, Candle Cove. If you're really tuned into internet horror and creepy campfire stories for a digital age, then perhaps you've come across Candle Cove before. This freaky story in particular actually scared me to my core when I was younger, like really chilled my bones. So it feels very appropriate if I can traumatize a new generation. I love to give back. What can I say? I love to keep the cycle. The legend goes that Candle Cove was a TV show for younger audiences about pirates, my favorite subject, filmed as a puppet show like something like the Thunderbirds. It first popped up on a forum for nostalgic TV, where someone asked if anybody remembered this old show Candle Cove. Tons of users came out of the woodwork to share their stories and happy memories of this silly little show. It was like a group effort, everybody tossing in what little bits of trivia they remembered. But people were frustrated that it was hard to find any footage footage or like DVD recordings of the show. Well, someone uploaded a clip of Candle Cove and it is pretty darn unsettling. As I've already mentioned, puppets are inherently terrifying, and then you mix in some VHS artifacts, scratching and screaming, and something that's supposed to be innocent turns into a horror show real quick. A lot of the details about the show sound like it was way too scary for its young audience. There's a character named Skin Taker, a skeleton pirate wearing skin, or an episode that was just the puppets shaking and screaming into the camera. Now, where the legend of Candle Cove gets downright horrifying and freaky is that someone in the original forum thread where it was first discovered returned to the post, saying that he met up with his parents and he had asked if they knew anything about Candle Cove or remembered how much he used to love that show. And he was told by his mother she was always confused whenever he would talk about that pirate puppet show, since whenever he'd say he was watching it, he was just sitting by the TV watching static. Oh, still to this day sends a little chill up my spine. They eventually actually adapted the story of Candle Cove into a TV show. I can't remember what the name of it's called, so I probably shouldn't even have included this fucking right now. Maybe done some research. Got all of that. I am who I am. Number 1, Skinnamarink-a-dink-a-dink. This next one is short and sweet and also came out of Baddington's channel. 2 shoutouts in one video. Wow, we're gonna have to cut this guy a check. Well, when you're making some of the best scary VHS content out on the web, you can expect more than one shoutout in a video. This video is very short but spooky. Inspired by the sleeper indie horror hit Skinnamarink, this short video focuses in on an animatronic bear, one that I'm sure fans of indie horror PC games will instantly recognize. Much like the movie Skinnamarink, the clip really lets the tension and horror build up before unleashing a torrent of jump scares on you and then fading out on a blurry, out of focus image of the bear from before, lingering on you and staring right into your soul. And I don't know when else I'll get a public platform for this, but please watch Skinnamarink if you like this sort of thing. If you like spooky VHS horror, that's literally what the whole movie is, and it's a Canadian indie horror movie, so by Canadian content regulations, I have to mention it. Number 6, the bonus haunted video. I know, a 6th entry on top 5 scary? What is he doing? He's letting the power go to his head. I know this is top 5, but I found a 6th one and it was just too good not to include. The story about it was amazing, the footage itself is horrifying, and I think you'll agree with me for including it. If you found a videotape that had a mysterious blank label reading "surprise," would you watch it? I feel like a lifetime of studying horror films has prepared me to know better than to do anything so stupid. Well, in 2018, a software engineer named Foon Turing discovered a mysterious VHS tape in a charity shop in Milpitas, California. The tape looked old, definitely a few decades at least, with a worn out sticker on the front reading "surprise" and a smiley face, looking like a prop out of a horror movie. It looked like the thing that has the girl from The Ring on it. Most of us probably would have chucked that into a dumpster and set it on fire, but Foon is braver than most of us, took the tape home and popped it into an old VHS player. We got the footage, and I'm gonna warn you, there's a reason I saved this for the end. Please don't write the channel and complain if this was too much for you. It's pretty disturbing. I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't too much, and I hope you're not let down. I would never let you down or run around and desert you.